Let's jump into the first big news here from the post-millennial. Louisiana rep says Biden is staging civil war by pulling down Texas border barriers. Texas should stand their ground, Higgins posted. This, of course, is in response to breaking news that the Supreme Court will allow federal agents to cut razor wire Texas installed on U.S.-Mexico border. It was a 5-4 ruling, leaving many people shocked. Texas is being overwhelmed. There's a story, I don't know if it's true, but I'm hearing Mayor Johnson in Chicago is having panic attacks. Is that true?
Did you hear that? Double check.
Google search, see if you can find that. Because I heard people talking about it on Twitter, but we know that the mayor of Chicago, New York, they are freaking out over the massive influx of illegal immigrants. On the border, we know it is the worst we have seen, at least in my lifetime. And it's substantially worse than anything we've seen in the past decade. And so you have Texas desperately trying to stop it, deploying armed soldiers of the Texas National Guard to block federal agents from being able to control the jurisdiction in this area. And now the Supreme Court has ruled in favor of federal agents. This to me looks like a Fort Sumter-esque type scenario where the federal government is asserting jurisdiction over an area. The state is rejecting it. The state has deployed armed soldiers and the feds are now countering. We're hearing a lot of crazy rumors, but this does feel like it could be escalating to this federal versus state conflict. And with as many states as we've seen who are upset over the massive influx of illegal immigration and the fact the Biden administration is facilitating this, I think we're walking on the razor's edge here.
All I can see is that the federal government is intentionally letting immigrants in to later repatriate or patriate them, I guess, give them citizenship to go fight in a war that they're anticipating. I don't understand other than
or
that. Or
typically it's
to happening.
Shift the census data, right? It's to say there are this many people here and that's why we should get extra representation in the government, even though they're not here to legally vote. They didn't enter this country legally. I mean, the implications of illegal immigration are really serious. And I think the federal government is actually pushing Texas to more seriously consider secession. They have that vote coming up to consider it in November. I think they're going to isolate themselves from what is ultimately a small country that we're all attached to. I mean, Texas is independently economically viable without the U.S.
Look, it is the policy of the Biden administration to have open borders, period. Joe Biden himself blurted it out 3 days ago. He said, when they asked him point blank, is the border secure? He said no. And I've said that for a number of years. Well, he needs to tell that to Secretary Mayorkas plus Miss Jean Pierre, because that's the exact opposite of what they have said. Notice what the mayor of Chicago said. He said, this is not sustainable. We're going to run out of money soon because we don't have the money for the social services for this influx of migrants. And the answer is to give them citizenship. How is that the answer? When Secretary Blinken met with the president of Mexico in their joint communique, he also implied that the answer was somehow to give this influx of migrant citizenships. Well, we understand that would allow them to vote. Perhaps that's the goal, but I don't see how that will solve the fiscal problem, the fentanyl problem, the crime problem, the fact that these cities, these counties, these states, they're running out of money. They don't have the money to sustain this influx of migrants.
I think the money they're looking for is to facilitate more of it. We've seen for years they've been they've been smuggling children on planes and transporting them across the country. Mm-hmm. So we've it's funny when we have a Democrat come in here and we show, like Marianne Williamson, we show her the story. It's like, this is from 2021, where undercover video catches them doing this. They're smuggling people. They're getting away with it.
The thing about just getting them in to vote, which they might be doing to give them citizenship and let them vote, is like they could just use electronic voting machines and flip tallies and like cheat the voting systems if they really wanted to guarantee a vote outcome.
It's not about
they don't need to destroy the system within immigrants. So I don't understand. There's got to be more than
it's a long-term solution as opposed to a short-term. If they were to flip votes, that's short-term. If you're to bring in people, promise them public coffers, offer them executive order citizenship or something, which I think Biden will probably try to do at the end of the year. I think there's a strong probability of it. Then you will get a longer term voting base. But it's more than that. It's that putting these people into cities increases Democratic members of Congress. So if these people go there, the next time we have a census count, which is, I think, what's going to be 6 years?
Correct.
No, 6 years.
How many seats will the Democrats get from non-citizens, regardless of whether these people vote, and how many electoral college votes will they get, regardless of if these people vote?
The idea is to just change the basic makeup of the American electorate. Look, my sister's son, my nephew, her only son, who lives here in West Virginia, died of a fentanyl overdose late last week, 38 years old. This has touched my family directly. It's a horrific tragedy. But that's what these policies are giving us. And this administration doesn't seem to care. In fact, they seem to be promulgating it.
I think it's just, it feels like the unraveling of the country intentionally, like if we can't have it, then we will burn it down. If we can't have it, no one can kind of thing. Like a deranged stalker, ex-lover who's upset that his girlfriend moved on. So he's like, if I can't have her, no one can. They're just destroying everything because they're mad Trump's going to win. Or perhaps, more pragmatically, they are concerned that Donald Trump will win and they will go to prison. So they want to destroy whatever they can to make sure they weaken the machine, which will once Trump is elected, will be turned against him.
Maybe. I mean, the other thing is that maybe they never valued the country before, right? They never valued America at any point. And so the idea that they're like, we don't care that this is destroying anything because we never thought it was worth protecting or saving. They can't see why America is a unique nation and why importing fentanyl into poor parts of the U.S. is a disaster, right? There's sort of an elitism about it that says this is not something I care about because it doesn't touch my life. And in fact, I don't value this. I mean, it was always what celebrities were like, if Donald Trump gets elected, I'm moving to Canada. It's the same type of mentality. But I can leave this behind even if you die from it.
But you even have liberals like Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, who runs for mayor saying he's proud that New York is a sanctuary city. Today, he's saying this threatens to destroy New York as we know it. These mayors, they don't know what to do. They can't provide the social services required, and people who are legal residents are being denied social services so we can house, migrants.
Now, here's my concern. You already have armed National Guard, armed soldiers deployed to block federal agents. The Supreme Court has now ruled in favor of these federal agents. They can go in and remove razor wire, basically allowing wave after wave of criminal alien to enter this country. The Texas National Guard is already defying the feds. The feds have asserted jurisdiction here. Texas National Guard said, screw off. What's going to change? Why would the Supreme Court saying you can remove the razor wire change anything about Texas state law and how they handle law enforcement? Texas has said it is illegal to cross our borders in this way, and we will enforce the law. The feds are saying we can remove this and allow them to break the law. I don't see Texas backing down from this. Texas is going to say, that's great, Supreme Court, really, really great. Good luck removing the razor wire when our guys are standing there holding guns, blocking you from access to the river. What are the feds going to do? Show up with guns and point the guns at the National Guard and say, get out of the way? Is Texas, I mean, fair question. Is Texas going to instruct their armed soldiers, you must now evacuate and let the feds come in?
Because the order is, it's a temporary order pending the ongoing litigation. Is there a chance that effectively Texas could be held in contempt of court? What are the punishments for not going along with this temporary order pending ongoing litigation?
What does that even mean when the feds have already asserted jurisdiction on the river and Texas said, F off? You can file all the paperwork in the world for injunction. The feds have already asserted it's our jurisdiction. And Texas said, don't care, get out with guns. So the only option now is either the only paths forward would be Texas backs down and says, we hereby respect the Supreme Court. We are going to remove all of our law enforcement. We are going to allow wave after wave of criminal aliens to break state law and do nothing about it. Or they're going to say this changes nothing. It's illegal in our state. We don't care if the feds think otherwise.
I mean, that's what Paxton said. Attorney General Ken Paxton said, this is a temporary order and the litigation is ongoing and we're going to continue to fight this. I mean, he's not saying exactly what they'll do if they'll refuse to let them take the razor wire out, but he is saying that Texas is not willing to put up with this sort of federal reach into their border security.
So what are the feds going to do next? Nothing?
This is a classic struggle between federal power and states' rights. But while we're sitting here trying to sort this out, how many million more people are going to come into the country illegally?
And my fear is that, let's say Donald Trump wins in November, handily, Joe Biden rubber stamps an executive order granting a quick path to citizenship for all of these people, millions. At that point would be what? 12 to 15 million people. And then there's an instantly people say, we're suing, we're going to challenge this. And he smiles and says, yeah, in 2 years, when this is resolved, those people will have already gotten their papers. Good luck resolving
I
it then.
think we need to set some precedent about how awful, horrendous, unethical, illegal that would be for a president to, by decree, give people citizenship.
You mean like DACA?
Yeah, some mass swipe of the pen and
You mean like it's
alter-
already been done, like Obama did with the Dreamers?
If it's been done before,
Yeah.
this kind of thing we can't let that stand. That's insane. That would be insane.
And now imagine this scenario. Joe Biden, let's say it's November 25th. Trump is president-elect. Joe Biden rubber stamps an executive order saying, we're going to secure the border, but the compromise will be all the people who are here are granted a standard path to citizenship, which will take 3 to 5 months. You mail in your form, it's mailed back, you sign it, you send it back in, you're a citizen, you'll get your paperwork. And then, come next year, it's challenged in the courts, finally makes it to SCOTUS. SCOTUS says unconstitutional and moves to revoke citizenship from 15 million people who were previously illegal immigrants. Donald Trump, as president, says, we are going to remove these people who entered this country illegally and were only granted citizenship under false pretenses. The left then says, look at all the videos of Trump rounding up American citizens and putting them in camps.
Dwight Eisenhower deported 1.3 million illegals. It can theoretically be done. And as you have a deteriorating condition in the country in terms of crimes, drugs, economic opportunity, and so on, I'm not sure that the Democrats will be on the popular side of this. Also, I'm not sure the constitutionality of Joe Biden waving a wand and saying, well, you're a U.S. citizen. I'm not sure you can do
What about
that.
DACA?
Look, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not an expert.
I don't think it's illegal, but I mean, Obama executive order was what does DACA stand for? Can you look it up?
It
It's been
stands
so long.
for Deferred Action on
Right.
Childhood Arrivals.
Right. And so this is how they inch forward. They say, okay, well, if you were here as a kid, it's not your fault. So we're gonna give you a path to citizenship. And there's a lot of people who only know America. They don't know any other country. And so then what happens is people on the right compromise. A lot of conservatives don't, but many on the right will be like, okay, fine. We'll stop there, though. The next step is Joe Biden's going to say it's been a crisis, it's been a disaster, but the amount of money that's going to cost for mass deportations are beyond our capabilities. The best thing we can do is document these people and then secure the border. And you'll end up getting a bunch of middle of the road people being like, okay, fair. Just like when Reagan said he wanted amnesty, and the compromise was we secure the border, but we grant amnesty. My fear is, let me go back a little bit back in time. This is what I've been saying is going to happen with Texas. I said, if Texas is overwhelmed by this wave of immigration, eventually the state legal apparatus is going to assert their jurisdiction and say, we're going to do something about this. What did we see? State, of course, passed a law saying crossing is illegal. The feds said, screw off. We saw the feds trying to remove the barriers in the water and the razor wire. And I said, if the feds keep doing this with Texas saying no, eventually Texas will assert its jurisdiction and push back on the feds. Then Texas did this with armed soldiers. My fear is how this escalates. And so many have made the point that if Donald Trump moves for mass deportation of 15 million people when he gets elected, the left will post photos and videos of trains and buses and camps and claim Trump is Hitler. Now imagine if it's substantially worse. And many of these people are granted rubber stamp citizenship by a Joe Biden executive order unconstitutionally. That doesn't matter to the Democrat activists and lawfare activists. They will just publicly say, look, what does Ocasio-Cortez say all the time? Legal asylees, refugees. They're lying. These are economic migrants, fighting age males who are coming here by themselves or smuggling children. And then the media and the Democrats lie and claim they're refugees. So what happens next year when Donald Trump is president and the Democrats just lie and say these are people who are being naturalized? These are citizens. Trump is targeting citizens and they're going to call it racist. He's saying he's targeting, Latin American citizens, and they're going to use their rubber stamp unconstitutional garbage to try and justify it in the press.
Yeah, I think
Hopefully
the optics,
not.
I mean, I think the optics would be really bad either way, and that's sort of something I hope Republicans are thinking about going into the end of 2024, early 2025. I mean, you asked me when the show started to look up how Mayor Johnson of Chicago is doing, and the first thing when I looked up his remarks are he's arguing that Governor Abbott is intentionally attacking leaders of color by busing migrants to the cities. I mean, it's going to be an ugly and divisive fight between these two sides.
The Post-Millennial did report it that allegedly there's a reporter who made the claim Mayor Johnson has suffered multiple panic attacks as immigration is bubbling up, and that's the insinuation.
For the record on DACA, it didn't give anyone citizenship. It gave a
Increase the path to
2-year
citizenship.
stay on deportation for children that didn't have like felonies or whatever.
And then what happened?
Then they tried to propose the DREAM Act, which would have given citizenship, but that did not pass. It would be highly irregular for a dictator to decide who is and is not a citizen of the country without legal recourse.
And there's a lot of things that Joe Biden has done which would be highly irregular and dictatorial. I do love the meme of they've arrested their political rivals. They're trying to put the lead candidate opposing the regime into prison, all while screaming the other side are fascists.
Yeah, it's the people who are trying to censor and cancel people, the people who are conducting 178,000 illegal surveillances on American citizens without warrants. The folks who are trying to lock up Donald Trump, they say we're the danger to democracy, really.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.